Hello there and welcome to the Trending Now podcast for this Friday, October the 13th. 2023. Yes, Friday the 13th. Ooh, spooky. Thanks so much for making us part of your day. I'm your host, Louie Butko, and as always, no shortage of content to dive into as we recap the week that was on Trending Now, which you can catch every Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. and 11:30 on CHCH or broadcasting live on CHCH.com or our Trending Now YouTube page. Coming up on today's show, the latest from Gaza, where the Israel-Hamas conflict. Israel's military has ordered hundreds of thousands of civilians living in Gaza City to evacuate today ahead of a feared Israel ground offensive. Matt Ingram, who is hosting Trending Now, will join us with the latest coming up. Meanwhile, in the U.S., House Republicans are essentially back to square one after Majority Leader Steve Scalise dropped his bid to become the Speaker, and tensions on Capitol Hill are rising as the chamber remains paralyzed. We'll get into that with Trending Now producer Emily Tayler coming up next. And we'll check in with some lighter news this week, including the return of the NHL and Taylor Swift now wanting to take the box office by storm with the release of her new Eras movie in theaters this week. Manesa Dhanabalan will stop by to talk about that. But as mentioned, let's start with the Israel-Hamas conflict with Emily Tayler, who is producing Trending Now, just finishing up week two.
Week two, yeah.
Of hosting Trending Now. I'm sure you were not expecting a war in the Middle East to break out, but
Definitely.
It did.
Yeah, definitely not. It's I can't imagine Laura Sebin is watching from vacation going, okay, I get to leave the show in good hands for a couple of weeks. Nothing will happen, right? And then, of course, a major world conflict.
Yeah, a huge conflict. And, it's obviously dominated the stories this week. Full shout out, to you, Manesa and Matt, because this is a very intense war. We know that what Hamas is, what we've seen Hamas do is absolutely deplorable. Some of the tactics being used, Israel now being called out by international law, saying that this new warning that they're giving to clear out civilians. As a producer, there is just so much information. And again, I want to give you credit. You were a reporter, right? You're a reporter that's producing stuff. You've been doing a great job.
All new to me.
How do you, how have you been absorbing it all? How have you been filing through? It seems like feels like it's been a stressful week.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot. I think we went from last week where we were like, okay, which sports are we going to cover? What pop culture and things like that, to this week is obviously very, very different than that. And it's a lot of information, you're right. The question, especially in the first few days, was how do we possibly cover all that we need to cover?
Yeah.
And there'll be certain things we can't even get to, right? We only have so many minutes of content in Trending Now that it needs to be like, okay, this is the priority today. We're going to cover that angle of it tomorrow. So things like a front in Lebanon or Syria now experiencing those explosions and airstrikes. Those are things that at first we were like, I really want to cover this. And then we're like, okay, no, day two. We can't get it all in one day.
Yeah. And full credit to Manesa. Manesa was tasked with a nearly impossible, Tuesday, the show was off on Monday for Thanksgiving. We're back on Tuesday. We have to recap everything, or you guys have to recap. And again, I'm including myself here in the Trending Now family. I know. But so, we're recapping everything that's happened, since the start. Friday, this happens overnight, right? It's hard to get to. Manesa, a near impossible task of trying to summarize how we got to this point. And I think that's the complicated part for a lot of people who are watching is, okay, how did we get here? And even for us and our generation, late 20s, early 30s, a lot of this, yes, it's been going on for a long time, but a lot of it is almost brand new for us.
And it becomes one of those things you constantly hear about conflict in this region. So it almost gets tuned out to a certain degree, to the point where we know there's conflict, but we don't know the details of it and what's been happening. And we give Manesa kind of impossible task. I think she did great.
She did an amazing job. Full shout out. Round of applause for Manesa.
But we asked her, we were debating on that first day. We can assign two stories to this and the interviews. What do we want that second story to be? Do we want to divvy up the information and use the day? today, and we decided that it was important that viewers know what the history of this conflict is in broad strokes. Of course, we cannot possibly cover the detailed history within the 3 minutes that we gave her, but in very, very broad strokes, how do we get to where we are today? Because it's not simple. It's not just one group invading another. It's not just one terrorist organization. It's really centuries of conflict right from the beginning of the states.
Yeah.
So.
It's just been one of those weeks. And I mean, to take people into our newsroom, a lot of times we try to avoid doubling up on stories because a lot of people will watch the evening news at 6, evening news at 11, and then just have us follow them. And that's a great idea for anybody who's watching. That's a great way to do it. You know, watch us at
Watch Trending Now.
Watch Trending Now at 7 o'clock. And if you miss it, it's again at 11:30. But there's been a lot of coordination in the newsroom, and that's the other part of it. It's working with the amazing Selena Drapal at 6 p.m. and trying to, how are we not using sources and really calling on a lot of people in this newsroom to call out for sources. And that's it. It really is a collaborative effort to be able to tell this story in the 90 minutes we have from 6 to 7:30 in the most accurate way.
Yeah, and I want to even just give a shout out to Matt. He's been so fantastic about sourcing, getting experts for all these interviews, and connecting with people who are on the ground there right now in Gaza and Tel Aviv and all these various places that are experiencing conflict. So I think it's so important that we're hearing from people actually on the ground, and he's been so good about making sure we have those voices. Yeah,
Matt Ingram is going to be joining us in just a few moments, but I did want to get to another story with you. We've been following the U.S. Speaker of the House drama for the last week now. A big bombshell dropped literally as the show ended, right?
I mean, so scared.
So take us through last night. We've been following this story all week. We're following it last week, obviously, when Kevin McCarthy was ousted as Speaker of the House. Matt Gaetz leading a very right-wing revolt against him. And now here we are a week later. Nobody had ever been removed from their position in 100 years.
No.
Or there had never been a vote to remove a speaker for 100 years. And even in that vote 100 years ago, didn't happen. So now here we are a week without the third in line to the presidency.
Oh, yeah. Amid major world conflicts.
You're hurting. Yeah, there's going to be a call for some aid to Israel. Israel is a huge partner to the U.S., a strategic ally in the area. What do you make of what happened last night? Steve Scalise just saying, you know what? This is an impossible task. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, so we did a story on this yesterday where the story was Steve Scalise is struggling to get the votes that he needs in order to become speaker. So even though he's been nominated, it's still an uphill battle. And then I get home, it's maybe like 8:30, and I was telling my boyfriend about these stories. He's like, yeah, isn't that crazy how he just resigned or walked out of the nomination? I was like, what? When did that happen?
The biggest fear of a news, when you do a live show, the biggest thing is like, did I miss that?
Well, I thought I aired this story and I had missed it, and I finally found the time, and he made the announcement just after the show. It was like 8 p.m. We were up 7 to 7:30, of course. So that was terrifying.
Yeah,
it's fine. It wasn't.
that man, and that's what I appreciate. I appreciate that you care, right? I mean, like, whatever, Steve Scalise, something happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, you cared enough to be like, oh my God, like that sense of panic.
Well, that's not like a small detail. That's the whole story.
This whole story about how he can't get votes is like, oh no, he actually quit. Didn't you know that?
And he realized he couldn't get the votes, I guess. It looks like now Jim Jordan is sort of stepping up to the plate. He might be able to get the 217 that he needs, but that's a very different candidate than Steve Scalise.
So Steve Scalise is still the majority House whip. He is he's always been, in this House sitting. He's been the number 2 Republican behind Kevin McCarthy. He wanted to be the number 1. He says he's going to stay the majority House whip. Okay. Why wouldn't you? It's a pretty powerful position. But the Jim Jordan aspect of it, and you and I were talking about before this, like there was a quote last night. Ali Vitali on NBC News was saying, I overheard in this caucus meeting that not even Jesus of Nazareth would be able to get 217 votes. And meanwhile, the Democrats are staying united.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they need to help anyone. And again, it's not like they're putting up moderate candidates. Like, it's not like they're putting up somebody who's middle of the road. I want to get things back on track here. Mm-hmm. It's Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, 2 people who this week couldn't even say whether the 2020 election was free and fair.
Yep. And that's been a big thing, especially that I've heard recently about Jim Jordan, is just his involvement in some of the events around Jan 6.
Yeah.
And so many Democrats are concerned about that, of course. And many of his own party are concerned about that.
His endorsement from Trump. And again, we probably won't get into it, but Trump this week had a speech where he called out Bibi Netanyahu.
Yes.
Like saying like you weren't grateful, you were taking credit. Like the guys and you know, we've talked about this in the newsroom. You know, Benjamin Netanyahu is obviously a very controversial figure in his own right. He's a very powerful leader. There were things going on in Israel within his own country, within his own party there. And now there's a whole other issue. But Trump was out there calling him out. Meanwhile, Republicans are calling out Biden for his lackadaisical response. I'm like, Biden's coming out and saying, we got your back. Trump is going on the stump saying, you know, this guy's ungrateful.
And for a major U.S. ally, right? And whether or not you agree with the politics, it doesn't matter. This is a huge ally for the U.S. And Trump's just coming out swinging with saying that Hamas was smart, all of these things.
The 2024 U.S. presidential election, I'm like, with all of this going on.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're a news junkie too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how closely are you following it?
I try and stay away from it sometimes because, frankly, I can't handle it sometimes. It just is.
It's so real, though. Like, it's
it is,
so
and it's
like
approaching, so I'm gonna have to start paying more attention. But it's one of those things that truly, like, I watched the first Republican debate when it was happening, Fox News. But I try and stay away from it if I can.
There's some major consequences to this election coming up in 2024. And that's not to say Biden is perfect. It's not to say Biden, they're both 80-year-old men who want to run the country. Emily Tayler, it's been a week.
It's been a week.
And you know what? And I feel for you because you were off Monday. Your week's not quite done. You're off to the NDP convention in Hamilton this weekend.
Yes, I am. Yep, here on Saturday as well. And then I'm right back Monday on Morning Live, actually.
Oh,
so
wow.
Little tease there.
We're going to have to edit that part out. We didn't get you permission to plug Morning Live here.
Apologies.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, as long as on Monday you say what a great time you had on the Trending Now podcast on Friday.
Absolutely.
Okay, there you go.
Of course.
All right. I know you got a show to put together, so thank you for making the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Emily Tayler. She is producing a Trending Now this week. All right, let's get some other stories, but let's actually stay in Israel because that is where Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, arrived today for a visit to Israel and Jordan, where she's discussing the impacts of the attack by Hamas on Israel and the deteriorating humanitarian situation in Gaza. Joly taking to Twitter, writing, quote, "I'm in Israel to extend Canada's support to those impacted by the terrorist attacks by Hamas. I'll meet with Canadians who are on their way home and with officials to better understand the situation on the ground and the humanitarian impact on Israeli and Palestinian civilians." Meanwhile, a statement from Global Affairs Canada says Joly will reaffirm Canada's support for Israel and its right to defend itself in accordance with international law, while pushing forward collective efforts to ensure the swift passage of humanitarian aid and the protection of both Israeli and Palestinian civilians. It also adds she will engage with the Foreign Affairs Minister for both Israel and Jordan. And for more on this story, the man who's been following it literally since the minute you walked in on Monday. You and I were both here. Monday, there was no Trending Now. You were assigned to the CHCH Evening News. Yep. Matt Ingram is sitting across from me here. And Matt, I got to give you credit. I mean, you are our war expert here. Listen, Russia, Ukraine, you took the lead on that. This one, you seem to be taking the lead. You're doing a great job, man. I have to imagine there's a certain level of stress that comes with covering a conflict like this.
I mean, the stress is that you want to get it right because these are people's lives. This isn't just a story. This is the worst moments of their lives. So in the same way when, on regular CHCH, when we're covering a murder or we're covering something horrible in the Hamilton community, the stress is you just want to get it right.
Yeah. The latest. We mentioned Melanie Joly. How significant is this that she's down there in Israel?
It's significant. It's not surprising. I mean, the Americans have been doing the same thing. Secretary of Defense Austin Delaney there this morning, meeting with the Israeli Defense Minister. Yesterday, of course, Secretary of State Antony Blinken coming in, meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Certainly all Western leaders, and I should say the UK, I believe the Secretary of Defense was there yesterday too. All Western leaders are supporting Israel and coming out to show their support. I'm not surprised that Melanie Joly is in Israel.
The latest today, and again, I mean, this story, like this is the trouble about a show like this where we recap the week that was, something every day. But the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, says even wars have rules. International humanitarian law and human rights law must be respected and upheld. That is because of Israel's plan right now. What is Israel doing?
Right now, after the attacks, what happened a few days ago is Israel announced that they were going to do a full siege of the Gaza Strip. So the Gaza Strip, for those who don't know, is basically like an open-air prison. There's only two ways in and out. One is a military checkpoint into Egypt, and the other is a military checkpoint into Israel. So all these people inside, they're relying on supplies from the outside world to live: food, fuel, water, all these things. Israel said that it was not going to let any of those supplies in anymore until all the hostages taken by the Hamas terror group on Saturday were released. That's been their line. However, bodies like the United Nations, like what you're talking about, are pointing out that in their belief, is a violation of international law, that civilians cannot be targeted as part of the prosecution of a war. And so now we have a situation where 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza have no way out. They're running out of food and water. The power plant, the only power plant in the Strip, has no fuel. The only places that have electricity are running on generators, and generators run on fuel. And if no more fuel is coming in, so that's going to go. Then on top of all of that, the Israeli military, which has been massing near Gaza for a expected ground invasion, which is probably going to come very soon, they have ordered Palestinians living in Gaza to head to the southern part of the Strip, saying that they are going to wipe out Hamas and Hamas institutions in the northern part of the Strip. Now, the UN has said, I should say they were given 24 hours to make that move. That's not enough time for because there's about 1.1 million people living in the neighborhoods that Israel is talking about.
You mentioned there's hospitals in there where people are being treated. And that is where that 24 hours is. You're not giving us enough time. There's a lot of casualties.
Well, and there's people who can't move. There's people who are on their deathbeds in hospitals right now who can't be moved. So I don't know what happens to them, but we're seeing like Médecins Sans Frontières, they posted their outrage to this plan because it's just not enough time. The European Union has said something similar, that this just isn't enough time. There's a lot of people asking Israel to change its mind on this. But at the end of the day, the United Nations has very little power over Israel.
Well, we've seen that with Ukraine and Russia.
That's true.
Right? I mean, we've seen the United Nations. You can put sanctions, you can do what you want, but it is just a body.
Well, and in this case, you're dealing with decades where the United Nations has tried to make peace in the Middle East. However, Israel has a very important friend, which is the United States. And the United States is a much more powerful player than the United Nations. So as long as the United States is backing Israel, you got the support of the U.S. and the U.S. military. Why are you going to listen to the United Nations?
How much concern is there that this expands just beyond the borders of Gaza?
That's a really good question, and one I've been trying to get to the bottom of. We've spoken with a number of experts this week on that. We are seeing clashes along the Lebanon border. Hezbollah is another terror group similar to Hamas. It's based in southern Lebanon. It's backed by Iran, and they have a history of altercations with Israel. There have been clashes. There's also been rising tensions in the West Bank. And for listeners who don't know what that is, the West Bank is another area that is where Palestinians live in Israel. There have been tensions there. Just today, there were some protests. There were some fires. So the possibility of this expanding, of course, exists. However, a lot of the experts I'm talking with are saying regional players know that there would be a lot to be lost from a regional war.
Well, and then you have Republican Senator Lindsey Graham going on CNN saying, well, let's just bomb Iran. Let's make this a holy war, which doesn't help anyone. You mentioned, I was talking about this with Emily Tayler. You have the leading Republican nominee for president, a former president, calling Hezbollah very smart, right? I mean, he has a history of praising dictators, Kim Jong-un,
does.
Vladimir Putin, and he is the leading Republican nominee for president.
Yeah.
I will remind that to people again, because I think it's important that that is who is leading the polls in the United States. He is calling out. He's calling out Benjamin Netanyahu for taking credit on something that he wanted credit for. Really scary times, and I appreciate your insights into it, because how important is this weekend? In this, we're a weekend. This is day 7.
Listen, we're recording this. It's Friday afternoon. It's very possible, but that by Friday evening there could be a complete incursion. Friday evening our time of the Gaza Strip. The last number. See, this 24-hour deadline Israel gave Gazans to head south. There were some questions about, like, okay, when's it start, when's it end? Like, when is the deadline? I just saw MSF, so Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, posting that Israel has given an extension to one of the hospitals for their evacuation to 6 a.m. Gaza time. So that's 11 p.m. our time here in Hamilton. Yeah. This is a crucial 24 hours. What happens in the next 24 hours could be the beginning of something much bigger. We just all have to wait and see.
And, we're watching this as it happens. And, like we're recording this. This isn't a live podcast for people who are listening. We're keeping updates on it. And just on one note, not something we discussed, but as of right now, the Republicans have chosen Jim Jordan as their nominee for House Speaker, putting the job within reach of the staunch Trump ally. So
I'm not shocked by that.
I'm not sure. Can he get 217?
I don't know. But I mean, American politics baffles me. Ever since Trump was elected in 2016, nothing makes sense. Up is down, left is right.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I will say, though, I feel very confidently that U.S. will always back Israel.
Yeah.
No matter what saber rattling you get from right-wing Republicans, that has been a cornerstone of their foreign policy since the end of the formation of the State of Israel.
McCarthy, obviously a huge supporter, staunch supporter of Israel as well. But of course, Kevin McCarthy, nowhere to be found these days. Matt Ingram, appreciate your dedication to the story this week. Obviously, it's a lot of heavy stuff, but you've done a great job.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Here,
fist bump.
Daps.
All right, cool. We don't do that usually on the show. Thank you. That was just his cue to get out of my camera shot. That's I told him. I said, hey, I'm going to fist bump, and that means you can go. So thank you, Matt Ingram, for joining us today. Now to some other stories that are making headlines this week, including a little bit closer to home. We've been following this story since it began here on Trending Now, and now the RCMP has decided to launch an investigation into the Ford government's decision to open up the Greenbelt for housing development. The Mounties saying its, quote, sensitive and international investigations unit is leading the probe. Last year, the province removed 7,400 acres of land from the Greenbelt as part of its promise to build, and you know this, 1.5 million homes by 2031. Land was added to the Greenbelt elsewhere as part of that plan. But of course, as we all know, the move led to a public outcry, investigations from 2 legislative watchdogs. The RCMP has been assessing whether to launch an investigation since the matter was referred to them by the OPP in August. Let's get to a little bit lighter news, shall we? And this is the one I'm pretty excited about this week. After more than 25 years after the iconic sitcom wrapped, Seinfeld might just be getting a second ending. Now, when asked about the show during a stand-up set this weekend, Jerry Seinfeld told the audience that he had a secret about the end of the show. Now, more than 76 million people tuned into the original finale, making it one of the most watched TV episodes in history. The finale itself, though, not so loved, and Seinfeld himself has even expressed regret over it years later. Now, a redo may be in the works, but nothing's been confirmed quite yet, and I am a dedicated watcher of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which was obviously Larry David, co-creator of Seinfeld. And I feel like they've already done it, but I don't know, maybe they'll do a kind of third ending for that one. More news from Hollywood. In an exclusive interview with the Today Show, Jada Pinkett Smith has revealed that she and husband Will Smith have been living completely separate lives for the past 7 years. This comes ahead of the release of her forthcoming memoir. She says the ex-couple wasn't ready to go public with their separation until now. Jada says she made a promise that there would never be a reason for her and Smith to divorce. Will and Jada have been married since 1997, and her book Worthy releases on October 17th. And the red carpet rolled out last night for the long-awaited premiere of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour film. The concert feature took over 13 of AMC's theaters the other night, where Swift made her way to each and every show. The film follows Swift through her record-crushing Eras Tour and features nearly the entire set list from the live shows. The bejeweled carpet was shining with stars and even included a surprise appearance from Beyonce. For more on this, we're very pleased to be joined by Manesa Dhanabalan. Manesa, is it true Beyonce showed up to the red carpet last night?
Yes, she did.
That's pretty cool.
There is a bunch of videos.
I thought they were beefing.
Why would you think that?
I don't know. I feel like two huge pop superstars. There's got to be beef there, right?
No, they got to stick together.
Okay.
You know,
Sisterhood.
Girls got to stick together.
You said it. You're on this story today.
Yes.
Which is a nice. I mean, out of the week we've had. I mean, you've been bouncing around. You know, yeah, we were praising you earlier in the show, Emily Tayler and I, with the impossible task that you were given. Summarize the history of Palestine-Israel relations on Tuesday. You did a great job.
Thank you.
But since then, you've been on some lighter news. We'll get to some of the hockey stuff in just a second. But Taylor Swift, are you over it yet? Because Laura Sebin, who is our producer here, of course, she's on vacation. She's not a big Swiftie.
Okay.
Where are you on this Swiftie stuff?
I'm not a big Swiftie.
At all?
No. Well, I listen to some of her music.
Yeah.
And there are like some great songs that I still always listen to.
Yeah.
And yeah, anytime she puts out a new song too, like if I come across it, I hear it and I like it. I catch on to music pretty fast, so it's not really like I'm like a diehard Swiftie.
Okay,
but
sure.
I do like her music.
Okay.
It's very
what's the significance of this movie? Like, what's
so
the
it
big
kind
deal?
of just follows her Eras Tour, right? Which started back in the spring. And it just kind of covers that. And it's really nice because it's an opportunity for the fans to kind of be a part of that, right? Because not everybody can go to the Eras Tour. It's very expensive.
Not everybody is putting it lightly, yes.
Right? So, it's going to cost you a kidney to get there. So, so this is like what? Like you're probably paying, I think, like
$12.
I think it's like a little bit more than that.
I think it's $19.89. It's one of the prices of her movies. Still $20
for children. It's $13.13.
Oh, because that's
number.
Really.
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Okay.
So. Yeah, so like, it's literally like a fraction of what you would have paid to go to the Eras Tour. And looking by the experience that the fans are having, it seems like it's a concert inside anyway.
And so what have you heard from because I've heard that theaters are allowing people to sing and dance and like dance in the aisles. Like they're not going to kick people out if that's what they're doing. Taylor Swift herself has said, make it like dress up, make those friends. I don't understand the significance of the friendship bracelets, by the way. I don't get it, but apparently friendship bracelets is a big thing for Taylor Swift.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. Yeah,
Why?
so people like even like one of the Swifties that I interviewed today is making friendship bracelets that she can, when she goes there, she can trade with like other Swifties.
Oh my gosh.
It's actually really cute when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, because like it's kind of like a community and they all seem to really love each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's really getting that like, love all kind of thing going.
She was at the, I'm going to be talking about this in my hit during Trending Now tonight. She was at the Kansas City Chiefs game once again. Her rumored beau, can we say that? Rumored beau?
Yeah.
Like it's,
yeah.
You don't believe that this is choreographed by PR companies?
I mean, it could be. But
do you think so? Like, what percentage of, because are you like 50-50 that you think that
I'd say 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean, because, like, look at it.
They
like,
can
it's
be, like Taylor Swift, the biggest star in the world, Travis Kelce playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, a good football team. He's been around, he's won the championship.
Let's talk about how big Taylor Swift is at this moment. She's got her Eras Tour. She has this
She's going to have the #1 movie for weeks, probably.
Yep. And then she's also got another album coming out right now. She's been making
re-release though.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, re-release. But so yeah, she has that album coming out. She's got so much going on right now, and then now she has this.
Yeah.
So she has the
Are you a conspiracy theorist when it comes to celebrity relationships?
not
do you
real,
think
I haven't heard it. Okay, so I really haven't followed celebrity relationships
Really?
enough to really know the conspiracy. What's the conspiracy theory?
No, I just that like couples like there was like Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello.
Yeah.
Like it was just for publicity or something like that. Like, you know, Zendaya and the dude from Spider-Man aren't actually dating, but they're just helping promote the movie.
Well, thinking about it now, I do feel like it's
Hollywood, baby.
It's all marketing. It's all
But to
like,
be like, I would say like I wouldn't want to be a celebrity at all.
no way.
Like I have trouble, and this is gonna sound so maybe a little conceited, but I have trouble. I have trouble handling the quote unquote celebrity of being a Hamilton C-lister in what I do here. Right?
People recognize you? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
I was waiting for that.
I'm kidding. I was actually going to say something a little bit more mean, but I had to.
No,
hold it
go
back.
for it. Go for it.
I was going to say it's not really a memorable face. Just kidding. I'm sorry. It was a joke. I swear. I'm just sorry.
Manesa Dhanabalan, everything.
No, I'm serious. No. Finish your story. So you are having a hard
No, I'm just saying I have a hard time. Like even that, I'm just like, like people recognizing you. Like I couldn't imagine not being able to go anywhere.
So what about it makes it hard?
It doesn't make it hard. It's just like when people like look at you too long, like thinking they know you, right? Like have you ever been at the grocery store and somebody's been like, I think I know is that that person? And
Well,
then
yeah, you would have to hide wherever you're going. Like I mean, look at this. Like,
Well, I mean,
knows?
she's clearly not hiding. She's out there front row.
Okay, let's talk about Will Smith and Jada.
Oh, that one
like
I
you know,
don't get.
they wanted to keep it a secret for 7 years.
How have they been separated? They sat beside, like he slapped Chris Rock, saying, "Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth." I can say effing.
The slap that was heard across the country.
That was like a year and 2 years ago. Like, and apparently they've been separated for 7 years. Another part of that interview, she said she thought it was a skit on that. Like, she said she didn't even know until like Will Smith came back and started yelling that was real. But anyway,
Can you imagine being like with your significant other and then all of a sudden they do something like that?
But is that your significant other if you've been separated for 7 years?
I mean, they went at that moment
'cause-
to the world, they were significant.
But that's what I mean. Like, there's like the last 7 years we talked like Jada like had hooked up with one of their son's friends or something. Like, I can't keep track of this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of it.
I mean, did you watch Chris Rock's
No, I didn't.
Selective Outrage?
No, it was like live, wasn't it? The
Yeah.
live Netflix thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
I
was
don't.
that.
I'm really behind on my Netflix. Actually, I unsubscribed from Netflix. There was too many things. Too many things.
So you chose to unsubscribe
I
from
chose to
Netflix?
unsubscribe from Netflix.
So Netflix is the ongoing one for me.
I have Disney Plus, and I have
Okay.
my buddy's Crave account.
See,
I have my buddy's Crave login and his DAZN login and his something else login. Amazon Prime, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I'm sharing Amazon Prime off of somebody
Am I gonna get in
else.
trouble for this? Do you think I'm gonna
okay.
get in trouble with this?
I doubt it. I think you'll be fine.
Big plans for the weekend?
No, actually.
I'm gonna be driving around my new car.
Oh my God.
Yeah, everybody in the newsroom heard that because I have not.
Cruising down the streets.
I have not shut up about my new car since I walked in here. So I've been pretty excited about it. Picked it up today. So I'm not going to tell people what it is because again, I don't need no people following my car. Even with this unmemorable, what is that? Forget it.
Unmemorable?
Unmemorable? Is that a word? Mike Corson, is that a word? Unmemorable?
I don't know.
Sure, why not? He says.
Sure, why not?
Well, have a great weekend. Thank you for doing this. I know you're getting your Taylor Swift story together. Can't wait to see it on Trending Now tonight.
Okay. See you
All right,
later.
Manesa Dhanabalan, my thanks to her for joining me on today's show. My thanks to Matt Ingram. My thanks to Emily Tayler as well. My thanks to Mike Corson in studio and Chantel, who rolled the teleprompter. I'm sure she didn't want to do it, but she did it anyway. And Chantel, we appreciate you and your dedication to CHCH Podcast. And once again, thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show or Newsmakers, which is our other show on Trending Now Podcast right now. I was able to catch up with Queen's Park Observer founder Sabrina Nanji, getting the latest from Queen's Park yesterday. Check that out wherever you found this show. And again, if you are watching, there's a QR code right on your screen, or you go to chch.com/podcasts. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Butko. Hoping you have a great weekend. Take care.